Another game without Joel Embiid. Another bad loss for the 76ers.
You are Locked On 76ers, your daily Philadelphia 76ers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Thanks for making Locked On 76ers your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more right now. New customers get $200 in bonus bets if you bet $5 or more wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. Mitch. Well, here's the thing, John. I'll be honest with you. You couldn't expect the Sixers to win. I didn't expect the Sixers to win last night going into that game. They lost last night to 118 to 102 to the Dallas Mavericks. The thing about that loss was it was one of those things where they were rolling in the beginning. Mm-hmm. They played with a lot of energy. And I said to myself, they're not going to be able to sustain this. Right. I mean, you look over, you saw where the Dallas guys, some of them were not really going through the motions, but pacing themselves. And you knew in the NBA is a second half game. Mm-hmm. And you knew that the 76ers were going to lose, right? And that's what happened. And for you guys, I know I didn't introduce us, and that's rude of me. But I'm Keith Pompey, my right-hand man, John Mitchell, the co-host of Locked On 76ers. But John, what's up? It looked, I ain't going to say it was bad, but it was bad.
Yeah.
They couldn't make shots.
Yeah, I mean, early on, it looked like, they might be in a game and they might be able to pull it out. But as a game, Luke didn't have it going early on. But as the game moved into the third quarter in specific, you could just see that it wasn't going to be the 76ers night. Shots weren't falling. I mean, they went stretches where, they couldn't throw the ball into the ocean if they were standing on a pier. And so it's a bad loss. And, bad losses are starting to become the norm for this team without the services of Joel Embiid. They're struggling without their big man, without the guy who is naturally there to give them points and defense at the rim, and they just can't. They're struggling to replace it, and now it's another loss to a good team with a superstar. But it was just like you were just waiting for the Mavericks to turn the key and just do away with the 76ers.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, that's true. I mean, yeah, and then like you were talking about, they weren't able to shoot. It was one of those things where they missed, they only made 4 of their final 23 shots in the third quarter.
Yeah.
And that fourth shot that they made came off of like a Paul Reed jumper. His only one made on. The thing that, their fourth shot in the third. So it was kind of bad. And additionally, it just seems like in the fourth quarter, the defense just got shredded. Where they shot like 7 to 10 threes. They shot 60-something% from the field in the fourth quarter. I remember they won out on something like a 15-2 run in that ball game. That was the game right then and there. That was the game. They went out on that run, and the Sixers just didn't have any options. But the thing that got me is it just seems like Tyrese Maxey has to figure out and find out how a way to continue to be effective on nights that Joel Embiid is not there. Joel's not going to be there for an extended period of time. It seemed like against the Brooklyn Nets, they did what they call blitzing, running bodies at them, harassing them, so to speak. And they did the same thing against Dallas. And it seems like, that's what teams are going to do to him. They're just going to attack him. They're going to do this when he has the ball. He was saying he has to do a better job of getting the ball out of his hands and doing things like that. But I feel like that's the problem. And it's crazy because, only 2 games ago, he had the 51.
Yeah.
And he looked great. He was out in space. Now it just seems like teams are attacking him, forcing him to make quick decisions. And, he didn't have a lot of turnovers this past game, but it just seemed like his offensive struggles led to defensive woes. Like he was a minus 23, game worst minus 23. He didn't shoot the ball at a high percentage.
Yeah.
So I think that's the next step. That's something that he needs to work on, and the team needs to make sure they get him in a better position.
Yeah, and it's hard because teams are going to continue to do that with him. Now that Joel's not there, I mean, you talk about game planning for a team. It used to be, game plan for the 76ers. It used to be that, the opposing team sat down and looked at the whiteboard. The name at the very top of the whiteboard was going to be that of Joel Embiid, MVP, unstoppable player, best offensive weapon in the game. Now it's going to be Tyrese Maxey, a 6'2", 6'3" guard who's ascending, but is still trying to figure the NBA game out. And like you said, their teams are going to blitz him. They're going to run doubles at him real quick and make him give it up, or make him make a decision. And the decision last night was, he did have 7 assists, but you could just all his offense seemed like it was forced. All of his offense seemed like it was forced. He didn't have a whole lot of help. And that's because players are forced to play it because of all the injuries. I mean, Joel Embiid is the one we talk about, but they're still looking for DeAnthony Melton to return, Nico Batum, and unfortunately, when we say when those names, we hear those names come out of our mouths, we recognize that while they're good players, they're not necessarily players who are going to right the ship for the 76ers as and change the course that it seems like it's currently on. So again, they're hoping and praying to get some good news about Joel after this surgery. But right now they're just a team. I said it before. I think that they're looking like a lottery team. Where they're 4-11 without Joel now. They're playing and looking very much like a lottery team. They got that third quarter and they just got blitzed, and it was like a lid was placed on the basket and they just couldn't buy a bucket.
Yeah, I agree. They did look bad. They couldn't buy a bucket. Tobias Harris, I got to give him credit. There's some people who's criticizing him for his performance because of his defensive end. But just by, I guess that's one of those things when you're in the locker room and you can have communication, you can talk to these people and you can tell like who's really sick,
right,
who's not. And, or like, you could tell the things that they're going through. And
right,
brother still has the flu, has whatever he has, and he out there playing.
So he's gutting it out.
He gutting it out. And you knew because of that, by the way he was gutting it out, that he ain't gonna be able to sustain this. Like everything, like you just knew his body was going to wear down. And to me, that's what happened. Like in the first half, he was 5 for 7. He had 10 points. He had 5 assists. He ended up with 6 assists, and he ended up with 17, I believe. But it was kind of sort of like he wasn't. He wasn't himself. On the defensive end, he was getting attacked big time. He was getting attacked. All of them were. The thing is, the big question is, we talk about, we're talking about this offense. Like they need to get a little bit more production from the centers, and that's something that I want to talk to you, when we get back, because the centers play. while Mo Bamba had rebounds and all this, the center play was a little lacking on a night. I felt like these two guys could have had big games, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we could talk about that when we get right back. Happy Super Bowl to all who celebrate from FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. If you're like me, Super Bowl Sunday is all about scoring the best seat on the couch, grabbing your favorite football snacks, and placing some super bets. FanDuel has so many ways for you to end the season with a W or 2 or 3. Not only can you bet on who will win the Super Bowl 58, but FanDuel also has bets for which players will score a touchdown, how many points will be scored, and so much more. New customers join today and you'll get 200,000 bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins. Just visit fanduel.com/locked-on to sign up. That's fanduel.com/locked-on. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. So, Mitch, it's like, you look at it and you say, you say to yourself, you say, look, the Sixers came out here, they played well, but you also realize that in order for the Sixers to replace, here's the thing: we all talk about it's going to be Maxey, it's going to be Tobias Harris.
Yeah.
People are saying, what is Nick Nurse going to do, right? What about Kelly Oubre? But the big void and the hole and everything that they need a pretty good effort outside of their centers. And last night, like I said, Mo Bamba was grabbing boards. He did stuff, but it just seems like they didn't have what they needed, to me, in my eyes. Like, the centers really didn't play that well. Like, Paul Reed looked like he got a little bit frustrated on the offensive end. He wasn't really grabbing boards. He wasn't doing, the things that you needed him to do. Now, the one game that he played against Denver, Paul Reed was the man. He was the man. But since then, it's been really inconsistent. Now, again, have they been featuring him and giving him the ball like they were against Denver? No, they didn't do that. They haven't done that, but they need to get better production out of him and Mo Bamba, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm looking at the statistics. Paul Reed was 1 for 6 from the floor. Mo Bamba, although you did mention he did grab 10 rebounds, he was just 2 for 7 from the floor. So they went from getting more out the center position than any team in the NBA to now, the center position is a big question mark. The guy who I think is really going to have to step up now is Mo Bamba. Mo Bamba has, he's bounced around and he's on Front Street now. We don't know when Joel's coming back. And we almost had to start talking about the 76ers, this season, at least for now, Joel in the past tense. You just don't know if he's even coming back this year. But, he has to make himself available for the ball. I see him, taking 3-pointers. I know he likes a 3-point shot, but that's not what they need out of him right now. They need to get some sort of consistency out of the middle. And because they're so used to having had that, and how long has the center position been an issue for this team? Beyond,
man.
Yeah, beyond the stretch where they had Andre Drummond as a perfect backup for Joel. For one season, for a portion of one season, it worked great. But now it just puts more of a strain on guys like Maxey. And he's an all-star, so he's got to accept that. He's got to step up. He can't have 51 one night and then just go into a horrible shooting stretch over the last 2 games like he's done. But yeah, they get nothing in the middle. They get nothing in the middle, and when certain guys have to play up, it puts the Sixers in a bind. These guys have never been called on to be productive, and now, that they're going to have opportunities to mess up. But if they don't, they've got to play through their mistakes. They've got to be aggressive. They can't. They've got to make buckets when the ball goes to them. Nobody's asking either one of them to average 13, 14 points, but they have to be a threat offensively. Defensively, Paul Reed they both get after shots, but they got some big shoes to fill. They got some huge shoes to fill.
See, the problem is with that whole thing is they have big shoes to fill. But this guy Maxey Kleber, who's the starting center for the Dallas Mavericks. He started this game, and they were very complimentary of him, leading up to the game. But Derek Lively is the guy, the young boy from West Town, right?
Yeah.
Mom used to work for the Sixers, the whole nine, went to Duke. But he's the young guy. But this guy Kleber came in there, and he only shot the ball 8 times, but he was giving them work. Like, he had 14 points on 6 for 8 shooting. He was 2 for 4 on threes. He had 5 assists. He had 4 rebounds. He was a plus 12, right? And when you look at, Mo Bamba and all that, and you look at, Mo was able to, grab the boards like you said. But you're right. I mean, these guys, they got to step up like he did. Now, again, he may be upset, Paul, that he only got 6 shots. And again, he did have 30 points against Denver. But right now, you got to understand that, Marcus Morris, as long as he's here, he's going to get shots.
Right.
Kelly Oubre, they want him to get shots.
Right.
Tobias Harris is going to get something. And the same with Maxey. So it's kind of like your role is to defend, grab boards, and get out and go run the rim to rim. And if you can do that, everything should work out. So, that's the thing that gets me is like, they just gotta do their role and deal with it. Because see, here's the thing. You talked about Andre Drummond. They need Andre Drummond right now. They just do. I honestly believe it. They need a guy of Andre Drummond's pedigree. I mean, Drummond is making $3 million this year. Now, the thing about it is, what they got to do is they got to go out there and do whatever they can in their power to get this big fella.
Right.
And then that will make Paul Reed, nothing against Paul, but make him more comfortable in his role coming out here. Drummond is a guy who you ain't going to run a lot of plays for him unless it's a mismatch. But he's going to grab rebounds. He's going to run. He's going to do something, and he feels comfortable with it. The only, I think that there's not a lot of centers that's probably going to be made available. And let's face it, if I'm Chicago, I want the Sixers to overpay for the guy. Now, granted, 2-time All-Star, rebounding champion, all types of things. But if I'm them, I'm going to make the Sixers overpay. But if the Sixers really think that they can make the playoffs and really think they can hold this thing, they want to hold this thing together, personally, they got to go after Drummond.
Yeah. Yeah. I wonder if this is a playoff team. I think with Drummond, it stops the bleeding. It does, with Drummond, you get more possessions. You do get a guy, you get a better center than what you have combined, and it allows the other guys to fall back to more so the role that they were playing. But $3 million is not a lot to pay. That's an easy salary for them to make. It's not going to kill them. Doesn't hurt them on the books. That's like their only alternative, because otherwise, unless they do something, they've lost, I think, 6 of the last 7 now. They're a team that's clearly headed in the wrong direction. Drummond, we've been talking about this trade deadline coming. Obviously, the injury and the surgery to Joel Embiid impacts things, and it has to determine what you're going to do. But we were talking about getting past the second round. Now you just want them to stay, in the playoff hunt.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, they got to stay in the playoff hunt. But look, they still got to get past the second round for this season to be a success.
I don't see that happening.
No, I don't either. But they're gonna have to do something, and you know what I mean. Mm-hmm. So let's talk about BetterHelp. Sometimes we all need sometimes we all need the opportunity to get something off our chest. Big or small, certain things can really start to get you. It's important to let that out, especially to someone who's unbiased on your life. So today, I want to say how I really feel about something. You might even be thinking about the same thing this week, right? I'm stressed right now. I need to speak to a therapist. Say, nah, I'm not. But like, I'm gonna be honest with you, man. Sometimes, when you have a lot on your mind, it's situations where, covering this beat can be stressful. Covering any beat can be stressful. Yeah. So sometimes, it's good to have somebody to talk to get you through it. You got all these deadlines, you got the trades, you got all types of things going on. And that's what BetterHelp is there for you, right? So, therapy can be different for everyone. Most of us have bigger problems than our favorite sports teams. And it's important to get things off your chest every once in a while. If you're thinking about starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be flexible and suited for your schedule. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA. Well, the thing is, we're talking about the 76ers. And I get it. I understand that Joel Embiid's not playing. I understand that they have other guys who are not playing. Mm-hmm. We talked about DeAnthony Melton. You talked about Nico Batum. But then Robert Covington hasn't played in a while, right? Since December 30th. If I'm honest with you, like, I didn't like some of the stuff that I heard them guys like talking about. Like Kelly Oubre was talking about confidence and stuff and how they got to get it back and this and that. It just looks like a team right now that lost some confidence. Doesn't look like it is a team right now that lost confidence. And to me, it's crazy because they had a swag at a point where they knew they were going to win. Now, maybe it's because they realized they dropped the 4-11 without Embiid, right? Maybe it could be a part of they don't even know who's going to be in the room come Friday morning, right? But they got to get their mojo back, man, and they do. They got to play with that reckless abandon and know that everything's going to work out for them. But right now, I don't see it at all.
Yeah, I hate to agree with you on that, Keith. They look like a team that it almost looks like the last few games. It looks like they've been playing out the stretch at the end of the season with nothing to play for. I mean, that's who they look like. And let's be honest, when you lose, when a player like that goes down, a guy who has been dominant on your roster, a guy who can bail you out. And, in close games, he's been bailing them out, and he's led them to blowout victories. When that guy's no longer there, man, it's like you show up at the fight at the Rumble, and your baddest cat's not available to you, and that's who they are right now. And that, some of the swag a lot of the swag goes out the window. A lot of that swag. You're not going to replace it with the guys they've replaced it, but you're not going to replace that with anybody. So a lot of this is on Nick Nurse. We've talked about how Nick Nurse has looked so much better than Doc. And I think he did have the team playing better. I also think they were constructed differently, obviously. than they were last year. But Nick Nurse now is going to have to dig into his bag of tricks, dig into the medicine bag, and pull some remedies out for this team. I mean, a guy I see Kelly Oubre needs to step his game up, and it's the doors open for him to be more aggressive. I think Tobias, once he's fully recovered, will continue to be aggressive. I hope he will. Because right now it's all about, if you don't have any confidence now and you're just waiting to find out what the word is on Joel, and if you don't get the word that you want to hear, if your word is that, he's done for the year, or if he's will be available in the last 2 weeks of the season. I mean, I've seen some of that reported. Then the way they're playing right now is it won't matter. It won't matter. And if you don't have that confidence, confidence in anything, in sports, in life, is crucial. You are what you believe you are. And it looks like right now, the 76ers, they don't know who they are. They're searching for an identity.
Yeah, that whole thing is kind of, I ain't going to say it's crazy, but like the whole Joel thing is, from what I hear, is like you can have an idea, you think, but they won't fully know like what's going to happen until they open them up, right? And then you see what's going on. But, right now, I mean, I hate to say it, Joel, you got to take Joel completely out of the conversation right now, because Joel ain't going to help you anytime soon, right? You got to focus on what you got in that room, and they got to get it together. They do. Because then I'll be honest with you, part of the problem is two things. There's two of the problems. We were critical of James Harden and this and that, and we felt they were playing better than James, because at one particular time, they had a lot of ball movement going on. Everybody was getting involved. But then all of a sudden, that two-man game was working to a point where nobody could stop him and Maxey. Mm-hmm. So they basically went away from that free-flowing offense that they were torching people with, and they had the best two-man game going on in the league. Now you don't have Embiid, right? That's the problem. The thing is, when you don't have a guy like Embiid and you had Harden, you knew Harden would thrive when Embiid wasn't on the floor because of his style of play. Well, they don't have that type of player. Maxey can become that type of player, but he's not that player just yet. Right. So believe it or not, without Embiid, they miss James Harden.
Yeah.
They miss him, right? They just miss him. So those are two of the things. So now they got to try to get Maxey to step up. Now, the thing is, when you play with Embiid, a lot of some of the things that Maxey needs to improve on can become a little bit camouflaged, because he, because Embiid's presence erases his or makes you overlook Maxey's weakness. Well, now people are attacking it. They're blitzing them. They're doing all types of things, and they're preventing stuff. Before they were trying to make him go left. They're trying to do this. They're doing all types of stuff at him now. Yeah. So it's struggling. So they need, you would say they can get another perimeter guy, but I also think that you need a dominant big, and that's why I keep saying, go get Andre Drummond. Yeah. Go get him. And Sixers fans are upset because of the whole James Harden debacle, and saying, look, we had Andre Drummond. I get all that. I get it. Believe me.
Their hands were forced.
Their hands was forced. So it is what it is. It is what it is. So we'll see, man. We'll see. We'll see. But we want to thank y'all for listening. But before we go, I want to say Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On Plus, our national shows covering every league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. And we'd like to say thanks for listening, and have a blessed day. Peace.
Peace, y'all.